Colonel Emma Brooks steps into a small supermarket on a calm weekend afternoon in Austin, Texas. Dressed casually in a white shirt, blue jeans, and sneakers, she easily blends into the crowd of ordinary shoppers. Her modest appearance gave no hint that this was a woman who had spent her entire career defending her nation and leading hundreds of soldiers on the battlefield. Emma enjoys these peaceful moments, shopping for essentials alone after a long, taxing day. But that tranquility was soon disrupted by what seemed like a trivial act, which ended up exposing the true nature of a person. At the end of an aisle, a tall man in a police uniform, Officer Paul Smith, accidentally dropped a bottle of soda and a packet of noodles onto the floor. Emma stopped in her tracks, watching as Paul glanced at the mess and casually walked away, leaving the items scattered. As a soldier, Emma had been trained to notice the smallest details and take responsibility for her actions. Paul's careless behavior and indifferent attitude were too much for her to ignore. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Excuse me, sir. You dropped these items. Perhaps you should pick them up so they don't inconvenience others." Paul, instead of apologizing, turned to Emma with a cold stare. His gaze swept over her dismissively, as though she didn't even deserve his attention. With a disdainful smirk, he replied, "Who do you think you are to tell me what to do? I don't have time for trivial matters." Despite his arrogance, Emma kept her composure. Her eyes gleamed with determination as she responded, "As a police officer, it's your duty to set an example for the community. Picking up what you dropped isn't just polite, it shows respect for everyone around you." But Emma's words didn't seem to reach him. Instead, Paul sneered and hurled more sarcastic remarks. What began as a minor incident quickly turned the supermarket's atmosphere tense. Shoppers started to notice the confrontation, their curious glances settling on the two. Emma felt their silent judgment, but she stood tall, unwavering in her stance. Paul glared at Emma again, his eyes filled with contempt. His posture exuded smugness, with no intention of acknowledging her words. Inwardly, Emma felt a wave of anger, but her years of service had taught her to master her emotions in even the most stressful situations. She took a deep breath, her voice steady yet firm. "This isn't about a small matter," Emma said. "You're wearing a police uniform, and everyone here is watching. Picking up what you dropped isn't just a citizen's duty, it's a reflection of the values your profession represents." Her words were clear and pointed, yet Paul remained defiant. He laughed mockingly, his tone dripping with arrogance. "You think you know so much about being a policeman," he retorted, "but you don't have a clue. This isn't worth anyone's time, and honestly, you should mind your own business." The tension in the air thickened as more bystanders began filming the exchange on their phones. Emma was keenly aware of their stares, but she didn't allow them to distract her. Her anger wasn't just about Paul's irresponsibility, it was about the injustice and prejudices she and many others had faced throughout their lives and careers. Holding her ground, Emma's calm, yet resolute voice broke the silence. "You're underestimating the wrong person," she said. "Your behavior has consequences, not just for me, but for you as well." Paul sneered again, dismissing her words as if they carried no weight. But behind Emma's composed demeanor was a fierce determination. She knew this was more than a small disagreement. It was a moment to stand up for the values she had fought for all her life. As Paul's smug grin lingered, and his eyes remained full of contempt, Emma's cold gaze met his. Her experience as a leader shone through as she chose reason over anger. "I'm not here to argue," she stated, her tone calm but commanding. "I'm here to remind you that your actions affect more than just yourself." Colonel Emma Brooks' sharp words began to draw the full attention of the crowd. Many people abandoned their shopping carts, now watching the unfolding confrontation. Paul, sensing the growing pressure from the many eyes on him, tried to mask his embarrassment with an air of arrogance. He chuckled, the sound echoing through the narrow aisle of the supermarket. "Responsibility." Paul sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Who do you think you are to lecture me? Just an average woman, nothing special. Don't think for a second you have the right to stand here and tell me what to do. You have no idea what my job entails." Paul's words, laced with sexism and racism, struck at Emma's core. But instead of letting his remarks unsettle her, she took a deep breath and met his gaze with unwavering resolve. She knew that her response at this moment wasn't just about her, it was about embodying the leadership and integrity that defined her. "I don't need you to understand who I am," Emma replied, her tone calm yet powerful. "But I do need you to understand that respect is a basic right for everyone in this society. If you can't show that respect, then you're the one unworthy of wearing that uniform." Paul's arrogant laughter grew louder, his contemptuous gaze fixed on her. "What do you think you can do to me?" he mocked. "I'm a policeman. The law is on my side. And you? You're just a regular woman, nothing more. Know your place before you get yourself into trouble." His words were both an insult and a challenge. Yet, Emma stood firm, her expression unshaken. The tense silence in the supermarket was palpable. All eyes were on her. This was no longer a simple argument. It had transformed into a test of courage and principle. Emma straightened her shoulders, her posture resembling that of a commander preparing for battle. Her steady gaze bore into Paul's, her presence radiating authority despite her modest appearance. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. Taking a single step forward, Emma spoke with a calm voice that cut like steel. "You can think of me however you want," she said. "But remember, arrogance and disdain won't hide your lack of morality. I'm not here to challenge your power, but I won't stand by and let you misuse it." Paul's smug demeanor faltered as her words landed. His confidence began to waver, though he tried to hide it behind a scowl. He scanned Emma's face, searching for a sign of fear or hesitation, but found none. Instead, he was met with the unyielding resolve of a woman who had faced far greater battles. The crowd, now completely captivated, began recording the scene on their phones. Paul, attempting to regain control, snarled, "Don't act so noble in front of me. You're nothing but a troublemaker. If I wanted to, I could throw you out of here right now." Emma's expression remained steady, though the corners of her mouth tightened ever so slightly, a subtle display of composed strength. "If you believe your authority gives you the right to behave like this," she said, her voice firm but measured, "then let the law decide who's in the wrong. But don't mistake me for someone who'll back down out of fear." The supermarket felt frozen in time. The tension in the air was thick as Paul, towering and aggressive, stood face to face with Emma. Though smaller in stature and dressed in civilian clothing, her commanding presence overshadowed him. "You can continue to insult me," Emma said, her voice steady as ever. "But remember, I'm not standing here for my own pride. I'm standing for the principles I've dedicated my life to defending." The room seemed to grow quieter. No one spoke, but the crowd's supportive energy was evident in their watchful, unblinking eyes. Paul, still trying to maintain his tough exterior, couldn't completely hide his discomfort as he realized the situation was slipping out of his control. Emma remained composed, a symbol of resilience amidst the storm of arrogance and prejudice. Even as Paul's tone grew harsher, she didn't flinch. The years she had spent leading soldiers on the battlefield had prepared her for moments like this. Paul stepped forward, his voice rising in aggression. "I'm warning you. Don't make this worse for yourself. I'm the police, and I have every right to handle this however I see fit." His words echoed in the stillness, but instead of intimidating Emma, they only strengthened her resolve. Without breaking eye contact, Emma calmly reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her movements were deliberate, unhurried, and brimming with quiet confidence, as though she had planned this from the start. "You're right," she said, her voice soft yet unyielding. "You have rights. And so do I."